Let's go. Demon Hunter Keybind session right now, people. Here's what this is going to be like. This is a little bit different. I have a special request from a patron, Seth Craven. Appreciate you for the support, Seth Craven. I'm trying to support you now. Back and forth here. Seth wants to overhaul his keybinds for his Demon Hunter and wants just a more efficient setup. Kind of likes a lot of the stuff I'm putting down with all these different keybind thoughts and wants to customize it towards his setup. And he doesn't have a gaming mouse with all these buttons, so that's kind of what the strategy I'm going to be talking through here. Instead of just telling you my end answer, I want to be able to kind of give the big picture as far as the thought process of how to go from seeing someone's keybinds a certain way, making some changes, where can you fit those in, all that kind of stuff. So, for the sake of this, I'm going to start off with Havoc, all right? I'm going to start off with the Havoc Demon Hunter, and then we're going to go to Vengeance. The biggest thing, I mean, I've put a lot of time and thought into where my keybinds are currently, and I fully believe in them, because there's different type of, you have to think of situational. How often do you use these things? Something like a healing potion. You don't use it that often, but when you do, man, you need to use it. You know what I'm saying? Trinkets, how often do you use them? Sometimes they're baked into macros, but sometimes you want to use them specifically. So how important is that? All that kind of stuff, right? Now, the more keybinds you have, the more flexibility you have. So losing these keybinds on my mouse is like a little challenge right now that we'll see how well it goes. So in general, I am going to keep the foundation. Also, I'm using ESDF. And they also use ESDF, so that's going to be another huge bonus there. It'd be real weird to switch over to WSD. So ESDF is going to be my movement, right? So that's 100% locked in. Again, S and F are strafe, right? Not turn left and right. But then everything else, I have got to keep a lot of these the same. So Chaos Strike is going to be R. Blade Dance is going to be T, and that is monumental. So as you're attacking all the normal attacks, you're going to build up your Fury and Pain or whatever, and then you can R and T for all of those things. No problem there. That's going to be super simple as far as that side of your pointer finger is going to be using those two abilities, and then G is my area of effect. Immolation, or I have this nice and big up here so you can kind of so you can see it and everything. Okay, so now. Oh, let me take care of this guy. Oh, there we go. Sorry. So as far as talents go, also I just have the pretty baseline talent spread. Not a whole bunch of abilities there. This should work for any other spread you got. The only other real active ability are things that you normally don't take, and then you'll have enough buttons to be able to put that in there. So anyway. I like to have my ranged type of throws be on my left hand side of things. Throw glaive I usually have on Q, and this essence break is like a burst type of ability. But burst type of abilities it's a 40-second cooldown. You're just not on as long of a cooldown, etc. So that's why I switch these here to where R and T are melee attacks. W is my little glaive throw, which also comes into play whenever you have your demons that spawn for the infernal that comes up, like it just happened. So that's going to be where I throw my glaive, and that's ultimately not always part of your rotation, but there's a lot of different specs, and that's getting into gameplay, not keybinds. So I'm going to keep throw glaive right here as a part of my main. All my main buttons are always right here. So now I've kind of paired Essence Break and I-Beam together on my keyboard. So Q and A are right next to each other on the keyboard, and Q and A are 40-second cooldowns on my keyboard. So I like that pairing as well, to be able to have Q as Essence Break and A as I-Beam to be able to have my damage type cooldowns there. So I like those. So I'm going to keep all those the same for you and your setup. Now, taunt. I like to have it on C because when you do need a taunt, you need it quick, but it's in a small enough of a spot. It's not that bad. Havoc. The only reason I have it here for Havoc is because I main a tank. I probably would deprioritize this. I'd maybe even put it at 3 or something, or X or something like that if I was not playing a tank as often. But tank C is always taunt, so there's that. Hey, Seth Craven's in the chat. Let's go, Seth. Let's go. That's what's up. All right, so hey, and Seth, since you're here, this is perfect. If you have any questions, freaking let me know, because this is great now that you're here. So anyway, movement abilities, right? Movement abilities, I heavily put either on Z, because I want to be able to have my priority for movement is you got to have your ESDF fingers locked up. These fingers cannot move, and you have to get it with your thumb, which is going to be spacebar, so that's out of the picture, or any of the movement keys that your pinky can hit. So that's going to be A, Z, kind of Q, but Q's a little weird spot because you got to reach up for it. So my movement abilities are either going to be Z or A. I used to have them be A, but I really like to have A be a little bit more of a tank type cooldown. You can also do caps lock, but then that's another little bit of a stretch. So Z is perfect for me. It feels great. The dash button, the Z is just a great spot for me. Now, if I have done this before, I'm going to get crazy over here. I'm going to put it over here on the mouse button. It does feel kind of cool on the mouse button. I'm not going to lie. It does feel, because again, Seth has two mouse buttons, like one in the front, one in the back, just where the thumb is. And that's essentially it, right? Also, Seth, I know you have one button on the top. I would bind that to auto run. That's just quality of life and auto run. That's it. I just bind it to auto run, and that's pro tip, right? It has nothing to do with combat, but that just helps, and it's just a super simple button. You're not wanting to press a button like that anyway, because in combat you want your fingers to be on the mouse, not like all curled up on the top of the mouse. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, you can also have that be mouse. Open the map. You can also have that be open map. That's another little button for that. But anyway, back to combat. So it does this on the mouse here. It does feel kind of good to have this on the mouse. I would play around with that, right? So again, that's why I'm kind of glad you're here and giving you options too. Is if you like to be able to have the press the mouse button, that's actually kind of a cool one. But I am going to not do that. I'm going to keep it on Z. Z feels great for me, and there's going to be more stuff in the mouse button that we're going to get to here in a second. If you ever have another movement ability, I would put that on X. X is wide open for me right now. You have you could put taunt there if you want to kind of move things around. If you don't like pressing taunt as much, you could switch that there. I've also put something. I've had health stones and healing potions and PvP trinkets on X as well, because those are very much more situational. But I think you said that you don't do PvP as much, so don't worry about that. So okay, moving on through. Consume magic, I have on V. Any type of dispel, any sort of purge type of thing, V. It's right there. You could, if you wanted to, if you aren't going to ever really think that you're tanking, you could put the taunt there and put consume on C. Consume C. That might help you. I don't know. And then oh yeah, explosive. This is going to stay up on YouTube under live streams, so you can always check it out. You can always check it out later. 100%. No worries. Where was I? So yeah, you could slide everything over, and then now that leaves up V's open for something else. You could totally do that. I'm going to keep everything right here because I don't think that that's necessarily needed. I have H as spectral sight because, man, it's just, when do you ever use it? It just never really happens. And whenever you do, whatever, right? So there's that. And then Healthstone is 1. Refreshing healing potion or whatever your actual healing potion is 2. And then I have 3, 4, and 5 open. Right, so that's going to be possibly huge for you if you want to be able to put some of these other things, and kind of where we're going to be getting some from the mouse here in a second. Is PvP even worth it at all? I would say PvP is worth it. I mean, a lot of my gear is PvP. My rings PvP, this trinket's PvP, chest PvP. Yeah, I have a lot of PvP stuff that I've been using for PvE mainly, because I mainly do PvE tanking. But yeah, I think it's worth it if you can put the time into PvP, and you got because it takes some skill now, especially now that people have gear. So anyway, let me move this all back here. So how this is going to look here for you, Seth, is I'm going to ignore this. I'm going to move this up here. I'm going to move this up here. These are going to be my mouse buttons, okay? Just so for your visual reference. This is going to be my first mouse button. This is going to be my second mouse button. This is the shift version. This is the shift version of this button. So this is mouse button 1, shift mouse button 1, mouse button 2, shift mouse button 2. See what I'm saying? All right. So what I would do here, and how I would have this set up, is I would have mouse button 1 be disrupt, or whatever your interrupt is, right? And then I have mouse button 2 be a stun. Or sorry, shift mouse button 1. So mouse button 1, that frontmost button that's furthest up on the mouse, that would be your interrupt. And then shift, that button, would be your stun. Both doing essentially the same thing mentally, right? So then done, boom. And then I would have the next button here, the back. That's going to I'd probably have that be another crowd control thing, because Chaos Nova is pretty huge. So I'd put Chaos Nova on the mouse button 2, like right here, like your second mouse button, the furthest back one. And then I would put Sigil of Misery. If you have Sigil of Misery, I'd put that on shift version of that. If you don't have shift version of that, you could put in prison there, or in prison. Prison is an interesting one. You know what? I think I'm going to put in prison out here. Here's what I'm going to do with in prison. Check this out. So in prison, mouse buttons, right? So this is normal mouse button, shift mouse button. I'm going to do this control mouse button, because very rarely are you going to be imprisoning things. There's sometimes where you could use it as an interrupt. Certain mobs are interruptible with imprison, so that is a good thing. But then there's sometimes where you want to crowd control a mob so that it doesn't aggro you, so you can run past it and stuff. That happens in some dungeons, and obviously in PvP. But control mouse button would be another good thing in the same type of line, same type of thought process, right? You have an interrupt, a stun, and a crowd control all in the same button on your mouse. It's just if you are pressing it, shift pressing it, or control pressing it, you know what I'm saying? So I think imprison would be a good thing to put there in that line right there. Or you could put it in this other one too, because this is also now crowd control. And basically your mouse is now just crowd control, right? And that's kind of the concept there to kind of wrap your head around of crowd control. So I'm going to put this on that front button here though. So that feels good right there. And in control, whenever I do control, I press control down with the base of my hand right here. I just flatten my hand out and just boom, hit it. And it's super simple, right? So there's that. And then now with the only problem we have here is Sigil of Flame. Sigil of Flame is important. Now, not so much as Demon Hunters. I don't use it too terribly much. Now, again, I'm mainly PvP in Havoc. So in PvE, there is more times to use Sigil of Flame. So it's important enough, but we're going to stick it over here. And I would probably put it on 4. 4 and 5 are great buttons. 3, I don't like the 3 button too much because you have to use your middle finger to press 3. And I don't like that. So I'm going to put 4 as Sigil of Flame right here. Another thing that if you like this, and you might want to try this one out too, is if you do want to shift this over, you can shift Torment over and shift this over, and then Spectral Sigil of Flame can go on V. So now G is your Immolation Aura, and V is your Sigil of Flame, both AoEs, right? So you have G and V as your AoE abilities. I've also liked that before. But again, I'm going to keep this on 4 and then push this all here. And that's going to feel more at home for me, but I think that might be another option for you. But 4 is a really good option. And then if you do like having 4 as your Sigil of Flame, you could also throw in Sigil of Misery on 5 so that you have all your sigils are all in one spot. And if you want to do Sigil of Chains on your Vengeance, so you can put it on 3 and have all your sigils together in one spot on your keyboard. That can be nice. So then that's that one. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to keep it how I have it though. Okay, cool. All of my shift buttons, Shift R, Shift T, Shift G, Shift V, all of those are my tanking cooldowns. So I would probably say for you to do this. Shift R, Darkness, Shift T, Blur, Shift G is Metamorphosis, and then Shift V is your Arcane Torrent, which is the little Blood Elf thing. Or you can have it be Shadow Melt for if you're a Night Elf. I don't know which Alliance or Horde you are. So that's what I would do there. Now, myself, I have Metamorphosis on Caps Lock. I like that because A is I-Beam, and then Caps Lock is my Metamorphosis. So I personally like that setup better because A is actually my I-Beam, which turns me into Metamorphosis, and then right next to the A button is Caps Lock, which turns me into Metamorphosis. You see what I'm saying? So it's like a similar type of thing, both on a longer cooldown, because you don't want your pinky to be a flailing all over the place and breaking on you, because I've had my pinky cramp up because I keybinded too many things around pinky buttons, and I was like, oh god, it just started to hurt. So there's that. And then the last little part here is your mouse button, your mouse wheel. I have my mouse wheel be the most flavorful things about the class: Death Knights, Death and Decay, Demon Hunters flipping and charging in there, Druid shape-shifting, all that kind of stuff is what my mouse wheel is. So for this, I'm going to have mouse wheel scroll forward, be Fell Rush. Fell Blade, sorry. Fell Blade. And then mouse wheel scroll backward is going to be my Vengeful Retreat. Now, I have it shift mouse wheel scroll back as Vengeful Retreat, but I could totally see doing it as just regular mouse wheel scroll back. Especially if I was doing PvE Havoc, I would do mouse wheel scroll back as your Vengeful Retreat. So now I could be in here, I could be damaging, and I could Vengeful Retreat back, fell rush back in. So it's all very very natural. And if I'm out, I can fell rush back in. You can also cancel, and this also feels good. I'll show you this here in a second. You can also like be out here and then hunt in, which that was shift scroll forward, right? So. And let me. Okay, I'm too fluid right now. So scroll forward jumps me to the target. Shift scroll forward shoots me to the target. Scroll backward shoots me back from the target. You see what I'm saying? And then Z is just this little dash situation, right? So it's all very smooth. And if I'm attacking in here and I want to fell rush back and then fell rush back in, I can just scroll back, scroll forward, and it is literally autopilot. Literally autopilot. Feels so natural. So I 100% recommend that little combo right there. And if you do that, that does leave shift scroll back open for something else. You could have shift scroll back be darkness. You could have shift scroll back be a trinket of some kind. You could have it be a tanking cooldown. I've had it be blur before. I could see that being blur. Like I like shift scroll down. It's like a defensive type thing. I could see blur being put there. But yeah, and other than that, and then mouse wheel. The only other thing, I don't like mouse click buttons. I used to use my middle mouse click a lot, but so many times I've seen people accidentally use stuff. You know, they accidentally scroll back, or I try and click the mouse button, but I accidentally scroll forward with it or something, and it's just weird. So I try not to use mouse click buttons too much. So I have them be PvP trinkets, my trinket 1, trinket 2. So whatever I have on my trinkets, that's what they are, right? And if I don't have any trinkets, then it doesn't do anything, right? So there's that. And then that is all of your abilities on Havoc. So now let's go over to Vengeance real quick, and we'll fix up Vengeance, and then I'll go back and fix all my keybinds because I'm all over the place now. So we don't need this. These are just mounts. Engineering, clearing up everything for you. Okay, cool. That looks good. All right. So now we're just going to do the same thing. We just did Havoc. We've programmed Havoc to be a certain way, and I want you to have the same buttons in this new setup. So Shift R is still going to be Darkness. We still got Shift V is Arcane Torrent. All that's good. Health Potions, Health Stones the same. Metamorphosis is the same. I Beam is now replaced with Fell Devastation because it's the same type of ability. It's the blast of forwardness, right? This is the only difference. The only real difference here is Q and Soul Cleave. Soul Cleave is your spender. It's one of your spenders. So I have Soul Cleave here instead of on Q because you use Soul Cleave all the time. So as far as rotation, I'm building up with R, building up with R, and then I can spend with W, right? So it's back and forth, R, W, right? That feels real good. And then I like to have proc-based things on T. So whenever you have souls and you generate souls, and then you want to have a spirit bomb, you can press T to spirit bomb, right? And then now when this demon comes up or whatever, depending on if you want to run this talent or release in decree or whatever, Q just can throw a glaive at it and kill it, which is really close. So the one my self-critique here is that I don't like that between Havoc and Vengeance, my throw glaive's not on the same button. That's a little bit of a for me, but ultimately I could probably put it on 3 or something. That might be an easy fix for that. Like, okay, see the guy comes back out and I can just throw it at him and everything. So does that feel normal? Does that feel? I'm so used to everything else, I probably wouldn't do that. But I could totally see moving 3 there just so it's on the same spot for both. That kind of makes sense, but I'm going to keep it right here on Q. So then, yeah, so there's that's all the same now. Taunt's the same. X is still open. V is still consume. H is still spectral sight. All this is the same. And then now we have imprison, which I guess I don't know why I have 2 imprisons. Imprison is going to go back to up here. And then I gotta move Sigil of Flame. This is gonna be an issue now for Sigil of Flame, is where that's gonna go. So we'll figure that out here. So again, mouse button. Oh, actually we don't have Elysian Decree either, so that's fine. Okay, cool. We're back. So Disrupt is going to be. In fact, let me make sure I'm in the right. Yeah, we got the right talents. Okay, cool. This is my talent setup for my tank. Okay, cool. So. Mouse button 1, Disrupt. Mouse button 2 was my stun last time, right? But your Fell Devastation, I think it's called. That is not Fell Devastation. Fell Eruption is your single target stun for Havoc. But I'm going to put Sigil of Silence there. Sigil of Silence is going to be the same type of interrupt silence type situation. So mouse button 1, interrupt. Mouse button one, shift mouse button one is silence. Right, it's the same type of like mental spot. Like, oh, I gotta stop him from whatever. And then control mouse button is imprison, so that's all the same. And then now I'm gonna move this Chaos Nova back down. Same button as the Havoc, and this is gonna be Sigil of Misery. If you want to go to Sigil of Misery, wait, there we go. If you want to talent into Sigil of Misery, you can also on a tank, but I don't right now, but that's an open spot right there for shift mouse button. So there you go. Now this Sigil of Flame is that's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem as far as because you use Sigil of Flame all the time as a it's on pull, like you use it on pull with Vengeance, and how your pull should look. Let me put it all back where I'm supposed. Your pull should look like Sigil of Flame. Jump in with demon spikes up. So I would Sigil of Flame as I'm jumping in, and I demon spikes in the air. So I would Sigil of Flame as I'm jumping in with demon spikes in the air. See what I'm saying? That's not usually it's auto cast. So anyway, there's oh god, now we have everything's fighting. Okay, so anyway, I do got to put Sigil of Flame in a good spot with keeping in mind that it's an opener. So honestly, 3 is looking really great right now. 3. So I'm gonna run it up. Boom. Oh, see, no, I can't do 3. I can't do 3 because oh, you know what? Sigil of Flame is gonna be in place of Fellblade. Because see how Fellblade is mouse wheel forward, right? That's a little charge in forward thing. So Fellblade I'm going to take off of there because I don't run Fellblade with my tank setup. But now Fellblade is going to be now mouse wheel scroll forward is going to be here. So if this is great. I might actually switch to this. So scroll forward is my Sigil of Flame. So now in slow motion, I would scroll forward, Sigil of Flame, right? And as it's loading, I would jump in there and then scroll backwards, which is Demon Spikes. So that feels, oh my god, I think I just unlocked something. That was great. Because right now my mouse will scroll forward on my Demon Hunter is nothing. Because in general it's Fellblade, and if I don't have Fellblade, then therefore it's nothing. So I kind of like Sigil of Flame being scroll forward here for my tank. Again, that's a little different. And if you liked another little timeout here, Seth, is if you liked me putting it on V, the V consume that setup, this might be your best option. I would heavily recommend trying this. Try Sigil of Flame on V, consume on C, Torment on X, and you can do that for both, and that's going to clean up that whole thing for you. That's going to feel real great. But the thing I just found out, this does feel great too, is this whole situation, because I love having my keybinds feed into the playstyle of combos and openers. So Demon Spikes scroll back is Demon Spikes. It feels great to keep Demon Spikes up. You just quickly scroll back on the mouse wheel. It keeps Demon Spikes up. Demon Spikes is your active mitigation for tanking. Shift scroll back is the jump back thing. So there's that, right? Now again, keep in mind, Havoc versus Vengeance, that's why I have shift scroll back be on that button, because I know in my tank form, or whenever I'm tanking, shift or normal scroll back is Demon Spikes. So keep that in mind. So shift scroll forward is still Hunt, shift scroll back, Vengeful Retreat, but now scroll forward is Sigil of Flame, scroll backwards is Demon Spikes. So my opener now is scroll forward, Sigil of Flame, jump in, scroll backwards, which just feels very good. I scroll forwards, which casts Sigil of Flame, I jump in with my pinky, and then I scroll backwards. So it's literally ba-ba. And that's how you pull every pack. You know what I'm saying? Forward, press back, forward, press back. That's super smooth. I really like that. And then 4 and 5 are my tank cooldowns. And if I had another tank cooldown, you could put on 3. But sorry, let me clarify that. Is normally I have defensive tanking cooldowns on Shift R, Shift T, Shift G, Shift V, and offensive tanking cooldowns on 3, 4, 5. And then the whole synergy thing with A and caps lock is how I always do that as well. So that is what I would do there. I really like the feel of that Sigil of Flame that we just found there. So I would recommend trying that out if you want to slant towards tank. If you want to slant towards Havoc, maybe you want to move the backflip on just the mouse wheel, regular mouse wheel. And then if you want to try the blend of everything to where you have everything all together, I might do this. And then now, let me see, I would do this. and probably, yeah. So I would have mouse wheel scroll back still be vengeful retreat, scroll forward still be the hunt, and now the only swap out is demon spikes is mouse wheel scroll up, which still feels fine. The mouse will scroll up. That actually kind of makes almost more sense. Demon spikes, they pop up, right? So in Vengeance, scroll wheel up would be your demon spikes, but in Havoc, scroll wheel up would be your jump forward, right? So that works out there as far as double dipping, overlapping there. And I would challenge, think about that. See, look, helping each other. Let's go, Seth. Yeah. I'm honestly gonna be like, I think I'm gonna try that. So yeah, I think that's super great, and I really like where everything's at right now. And that doesn't, and you still have another thing. You still have, just to keep in mind of your whole keyboard, you still have 3 open, or X, depending on how you move some stuff around. You still have Shift T and Shift G open, which are great buttons. You still have Shift W. I usually use a racial. So if you're a night elf with shadow meld, I'd probably use Shift W as shadow meld. And then another thing you have, let me just double check. Yeah, another thing you have is control mouse wheel up, control mouse wheel down. That's also great buttons right there to be able to just easily like press the control button down and then mouse wheel scroll up, mouse wheel scroll down, mouse wheel button 1, mouse button 2. All those are great control buttons. I don't use any control buttons on the keyboard. As far as like control something on the keyboard, it's always control and then something on the mouse. But those are all great buttons you have to open up for yourself as well. If you really like that, a lot of times I've really liked trinkets. Like, you know how I have trinkets on the middle mouse button, control up and control down. I liked being like damage cooldowns, like popping the cooldowns. Like that's always been a cool thing to do that too. But I think that's it. I think that's how I would set things up for you as far as the moving the mouse things around. If you didn't like Imprison on control, you could easily put Imprison on something like Shift G, because again, there's nothing on Shift G for either spec. So Shift G could be a crowd control thing. You could also put that on a control button. You could also put that on 3. Yeah, and that would all be fine too. But I think it fits thematically in this little section over here. So there you go, Seth. Hope that helped you out. That is the super quick guide of the stream today. I wanted to just jump in and help Seth here real quick. Appreciate you, Seth. And yeah, now I gotta go fix up all my. I took screenshots of my character before all the jumbling, because now everything's all jumbled around. But hopefully I'll get it all back and good to go, and we'll kick it back in next time. So stay creative, think outside the box, y'all.